gospel road. Matthew 22 is what we're going to look at today. A new week. New week. That's pretty much what it is. It was a wet one around here. Not sure what it's doing in your neck of the woods, country, world, wherever it is. But pretty wet around here. It's going to be pretty crazy. Things still opening up. And, we're just in such a strange time. I just did an interview for one of my other podcasts, my interview podcast, One-on-One, and it was a great conversation and really talking about a new program that they're kind of getting off the ground. And luckily for them, it's Rock and Prevention. A friend of mine here in town heads it up. And it was great because they were actually working on a digital platform. And then all this happened, and they were luckily pretty much done and able to get it launched. And so now they're trying to kind of work on that. But if you want to, you can head over to the One-on-One podcast and listen to that as well. And I think I've mentioned that to you, that all of my podcasts are on iHeart now. So One-on-One, Storytime, The Gospel Road. You can also check it all out on my YouTube page, which is, if you head over to YouTube, just look up My Buddy Jimmy 101, and then they can also be downloaded Spotify and Apple Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts. I mean, almost available about anywhere. Spreaker, of course, is where it all kind of is held initially. But options to check everything out. But really, as we're kind of doing all this and trying to get everything figured, it's still keeping in mind, what is it? Because I still know a lot of people that are either worried about their job, looking for a job, and some that are still working from home. I know companies that are pretty much doing the work from home through the end of the year, furloughs that are being extended. So if you're finding yourself in one of those areas and you really have something that you're wanting to do, maybe launching a podcast, learning a new language, learning how to play guitar, learning an instrument, piano, take the time, take that time for yourself to improve yourself in many different ways. Maybe it's even learning a new language, whatever that may be. Take that time for you. Take time for your family. And really enjoy the time that you have. It's going to be interesting once everything is all said and done and we get to the other side of this on how life is going to go back. And will it get back to the normal of what it was and everybody just crazy busy? I think it will at some point. I mean, those of us that remember at least stateside here in America with 9/11, and that really slowed a lot of things down, but it kind of got past it and everything went right back to where it was. And it probably will happen with this too. How long will it be? I don't know. It's just things happen, and for whatever reason, what we learn from that, we do not always hold on to. We kind of move past it and then just roll right back into our old habits, good or bad. And it's trying to keep in mind of what's happening and trying to make sure that we are remembering what we need to do and to take care of things. So take that time, whatever it is, read more, learn more. When you have that extra time, do what you can. All right, Matthew 22, that's what we're going to look at today. And Jesus spoke to them in parables, saying, "The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a wedding feast for his son, and sent his servants to call those who were invited to the wedding feast, but they would not come. And he sent other servants, saying, 'Tell those who are invited, see, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and my fat calves, and have been slaughtered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding feast.' But they paid no attention and went off, one to his farm, another to his business, while the rest seized his servants, treated them shamefully, and killed them. The king was angry, and he sent his troops and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. Then he said to his servants, 'The wedding feast is ready, but those invited were not worthy. Go therefore to the main roads and invite to the wedding feast as many as you can find. And those servants went out into the roads and gathered all who they found, both bad and good, so the wedding hall was filled with guests. But when the king came back in to look at the guests, he saw there a man who had no wedding garment. And he said to him, Friend, how did you get in here without a wedding garment? And he was speechless. Then the king said to the attendants, Bind him hand and foot and cast him into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, for many are called, but few are chosen. Then the Pharisees went and plotted how to entangle him in his words. And they sent their disciples to him, along with the Herodians, saying, Teacher, we know that you are true and teach the way of God truthfully, and you do not care about anyone's opinion, for you are not swayed by appearances. Tell us, then, what you think. It is lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not. But Jesus, aware of their malice, said, Why put me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin for the tax. And they brought him a denarius. And Jesus said to them, Whose likeness and inscription is this? They said, Caesar. Then he said to them, Therefore render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. And when they heard it, they marveled, and they left him and went away. The same day, Sadducees came to him, who say that there is no resurrection. And they asked him a question, saying, Teacher, Moses said, if a man dies having no children, his brother must marry the widow and raise up offspring for his brother. Now, there were 7 brothers among us. The first married and died, and having no offspring, left his wife to his brother. So to the second and third, down to the 7th. After them all, the woman died. In the resurrection, therefore, of the 7, whose wife will she be? For they all had her. But Jesus answered them, You are wrong, because you know neither the Scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection neither marry nor given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. And as for the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was said to you by God? I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is not God of the dead, but of the living. And when the crowd heard it, they were astonished at his teaching. But when the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together. And one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? And he said to him, You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. That is the great and first commandment. And the second is like this: You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments depend all the law and the prophets. Now, while the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them a question, saying, What do you think about the Christ? Whose son is he? They said to him, The son of David. He said to them, How is it then that David, in the Spirit, calls him Lord, saying, The Lord said to my Lord, Sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet. If David calls him Lord, how is he his son? And no one was able to answer him a word, nor from that day did anyone dare to ask him any more questions. Matthew 22. Lots of stories, parables in here with the wedding feast and paying taxes and resurrection and the greatest commandment and whose son is the Christ. And I think what we have to remember is, as we're learning to do things and taking care of those, again, many of you know my belief and what I think. And if you do not agree with me, it's okay. I mean, that's one of the things that I've said many times over the years in my podcast, that just because we do not see or agree eye to eye does not mean I hold anything against you. Because, again, we're to be living in harmony and to helping one another. I mean, look at the parable of the feast, inviting everyone in, and no one came. So they just went and brought people in off the street. The reason why I learned that, and we'll probably get a little more spiritual at this point, but that verse 14, for many are called, but few are chosen. God has his hand out, and he is inviting everyone to come into his presence. Now, not everyone's going to choose that, and some will miss it. It's just that hard understanding that everyone is called, but few are going to make it in. And I was saying this before that I learned that when I was reading in the Bible how it says that just because you're having a conversation, and remember, we need to have a conversation, not an argument, but a conversation with someone, and because they didn't agree, it was okay. They're called, but not chosen. That wasn't the path they chose to take. Then we can get into more details with the next one with Caesar and, giving God what's God and giving Caesar what's Caesar's. How are we? We are strong patriots. I mean, to be a good Christian, we need to be good people in many ways. And I mean, personally, I think some of that is even being true to your country. Not everyone's going to agree with that, which I understand. But when you're dealing with this and you're trying to find the way, it's like even you're looking for that job. And many people put in the application, few are chosen to interview for that job. It's putting that best foot forward to be the best that we can be, to really get out there and take care of one another. And remembering that, I mean, I love the great commandment part when you get down to verse 34. And it says, the greatest commandment to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. But then the second, to love your neighbor as yourself. We need to love one another. I always remember there's a Pastor Bob, and I listen to his, they're not podcasts, they're more vlogs, they're on YouTube, but he says the three things, it's love, love, love. Love God, love your neighbor, love yourself. And with that, we are able to help people be the best that they can be, to really encourage them, motivate them, inspire them to, get to that next level, to really succeed in life. And we need to make sure that we're doing our best not to discourage, but encourage one another. Again, just because you don't agree with me, if you need help, I need to love you and help you. That's what God says. Love your neighbor. It doesn't matter if you're Buddhist, if you're Muslim, if you're Jehovah's Witness. I mean, whatever it is, we need to love everyone. Like I said, this one's going to get a little more spiritual on this one, and it's been a while since I've been that way. But, I mean, I'm looking at what's happening in the world right now and feeling and seeing and hearing the hate that's happening, rather than people really embracing one another and saying, how can I help you? How can I pick you up, lift you up, encourage you, inspire you, motivate you, help you, whatever it is. And it's not just with what that's been going, but even back before that, when we were dealing with the whole lockdown, it's always taking care of one another. There's so many things that just irritate the fire out of me. When you're seeing a lot of ministries that are doing great for other places, and you always forget about your backyard. You forget about where you are, where you live, who's taking care of the people that need help right then and there. Unfortunately, I've seen so many people that they are not getting the accolades for the help when they're trying to help where they are, or they put so many expectations. See, I've seen pastors that are like, we want to give your kids bikes, but to do that, you need to attend our church service. No, they don't have to, because we need to give those that are less privileged, people that need help, to help them help the orphans, the widows. I mean, the Bible talks about that. But they always like putting a caveat. We will do this for you if. It's not we will do this for you if. We will do this for you because you need help. Because we love you and because God loves you. It's pretty simple. I think it is. I think we get together, our ego, our brain, all that gets ahead, and then it just clutters it and messes it up. Things are great until people get involved. People mess that up. Kind of a little more of a soapbox today that I haven't really done that for a while. And I guess there's just so many things that are going on that I'm seeing, and I'm not impressed, and it bothers me. And sometimes we have to say, hey, I love you. Hey, I'm praying for you. Not expecting anything in return. Not expecting thanks, not expecting the accolades. Just loving one another. Doing our best to try and live with each other peacefully. Trying to live with each other in harmony. And we do everything we can to not do that. It's frustrating. It's annoying. It's unfortunate. Matthew 22 is what we looked at today. Read that for yourself. How does it speak to you? What does it say to you? Love. I always talk to people and we talk about the Bible, and I look at them and say, so can you sum up the Bible in one word? And most people, they start going into this big, long definition. And I said, no, one word. And they aren't able to, and I said, I can. And they're, really? I said, yeah, it's love. When you look at the Old Testament, with everything they went through, it was God's love of his people, taking care of them. He gave them a promise. I'm taking you to the land of milk and honey. I'm taking you to the promised land, and I love you, and this is what I'm doing for you. And that's what it was. It was the love for the people. The New Testament is the love for everyone. The love for one another. Being there, being the best that we can be, encouraging not only me to be better today than I was yesterday, but encouraging you and encouraging anyone I talk to be better today than you were yesterday, to be better tomorrow than you are today. As I was talking about early on, if you've got time now, take that time to really invest in yourself, whatever that is, of learning a language, learning how to play an instrument, reading more, just learning, taking time for you, because you are important. There is a plan for you to do good, to be good, to help others. And it's doing that investment into ourselves, the investment into myself, so I can help others do what needs to be done. Giving ideas, thoughts. It's not always going to be financial, because not all of us can afford that. But we can be an ear. We can listen. Again, 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listen more, talk less. And it reminds me of a program that I was listening to a few weeks ago. Listening is love. Listening is love. Matthew 22. Read that today. Thank you for listening to the Gospel Road. Have a great day. God bless.